In India, there are 70 to 80 million people with disabilities. How is it possible that there are so many people around us who have disability? Because that's the thing. It's all around us, but somewhere these people are invisible. A lot of people with physical disabilities, people with spinal cord injuries, are not even considered a worthwhile human being in their own families. Technology was changing the world. It was transforming our world as well. But technology has a phenomenal element. Technology doesn't discriminate while people do. I will never forget that day. 2012 T20 World Cup cricket final. India versus Pakistan. Always a nail biter. Pakistan was on fire. At one point, it looked like they're going to win. But then India fought back, beating Pakistan by 29 runs and winning the inaugural T20 World Cup cricket for the blind. Yes, you heard that right. The first ever T20 World Cup cricket for the blind happened here in India. Now, here's the thing. Not many of people know that there is a thing called blind cricket. Very few know that there's a T20 World Cup cricket, and almost none of us know that India has won the first 3 World Cups. Hi, my name is Prateek Madhav, and I had a privilege to be a part of the organizing committee of T20 World Cup blind cricket. How many of us grew with people with disabilities? Did you have anyone who was studying it with you in the school or in colleges? While you go and work in these phenomenal companies, do you work with anyone who has disability? Please answer yes and no, depending on your experiences. But I'm here to tell you that disability is a very large problem. In the world, we are talking about 1.4 billion people who have some or the other kind of disabilities. In India, there are 70 to 80 million people with disabilities. How is it possible that there are so many people around us who have disability? Because that's the thing. It's all around us, but somewhere these people are invisible. I grew up in Jaipur, pink city of India. I had a lovely childhood. Studying there, I went to NIT Jaipur to do my engineering and then went to IIM Calcutta to do my MBA. I actually had a very privileged life where I have lived 2 in 1. The first life is about working 20 years in corporates. I had a wonderful time traveling around the world, working for some of the biggest tech companies in India and building technology which was very, very scalable to multiple clients I served. But let me tell you about the second life, which is more beautiful. I moved back into India from US in 2009. And that's where I started volunteering for multiple disability-focused organizations. It was not by design, but some of those nonprofits were near my home, and I started going there, only to realize that I found a community of people with disabilities who, unlike we believed they will live with a lot of pity, they live with a lot of hope and aspiration. And that struck me very, very hard. Because in the daytime, I was living my life and spending time with my corporate friends who always complain about things which they don't have it. And in the evening and the weekend, I would go and meet a lot of people with disabilities who live with a lot of hope, aspiration. They did not have access to the education we had. They did not have access to employment we had. But still, they had a lot of hope. They had aspiration to change the world. So I was sitting in 2012 in IIM Calcutta Library when this gentleman who was the chairman of Indian Blind Cricket Association, he was in Dubai discussing which nation will organize the first ever T20 World Cup cricket for the blind. And he called me and he said, Prateek bhai, nobody was taking that responsibility while there were 10 nations present, including India, to organize this T20 World Cup. And with a pause, he said, I stood up and said, India is going to do it. And I said, what? Obviously, I screamed. And since I was sitting in the library, I was thrown out. But then I started realizing that we as nation, we as small non-profit sitting out of Bangalore had committed to host 10 countries who are going to come in next 6 months to Bangalore to play T20 World Cup cricket. Anyway, long story short, I graduated, came to Bangalore, was sitting in a room full of 40, 50 people. Many of them were people with disabilities. And what does an MBA graduate do? Make a financial plan. Night 1 o'clock when we closed it, it was an 8 crore plan. And I said, oh my God, how on earth this small nonprofit is going to raise 8 crore in 6 months to do this World Cup? And that's where I felt the role of thinking bigger, playing bigger. Because within 6 months, with all the support which we got and a lot of support which did not get as well, we could organize a world-class event, which as I said earlier, India won. Now in 2015, I took a leap of faith to take a sabbatical from my corporate role. I became the CEO of the organization, which is probably the biggest nonprofit focused on disability. In that year or so, we opened 7 skilling centers across India, which eventually became 15. We overhauled their rehabilitation program. We set up a school for intellectually disabled kids. We set up a primary school with science lab for kids with visual impairment. And in just 1.5 years, we were catering to lakhs of kids with disabilities. Now, something interesting was happening during those years. Technology was changing the world. It was transforming our world as well. Imagine a time when my father used to take half a day chutti to go to a bank to withdraw 500 rupees. I don't think my daughter has seen a bank ever. So how we were consuming content was changing, how we were traveling was changing as well. But technology has a phenomenal element. Technology doesn't discriminate while people do. And I thought, what if this phenomenal tech, which was changing life around us, can also change the lives of millions of people with disabilities? I was meeting a lot of innovators who were trying to develop technology for people with disabilities. One of them came in as I was sitting as a nonprofit CEO. He said, Prateek, I have built this mobile app, and believe me, this is 2015, which will help blind people walk independently. And I looked at him and I said, that's great, but who are you? Why are you building this tech? And every entrepreneur or every innovator in those years I met had a personal story or personal reason. Some of them themselves were people with disabilities. Some of them had friend or a cousin who became blind or got into disability. And I said, this is phenomenal. If we can help one person in life, that's great. But if you can help one entrepreneur who can help a lakh people, then we are using another brilliant aspect of technology, because technology is a force multiplier. Eventually, this gentleman who came to me with an app, I called a friend of mine, Chandru, and I said, Chandru, can you please go and test this application? He, who's Chandru? Chandru is 100% blind. He was born blind and he's lived his life as a person with visual impairment for good 20, 30 years. So Chandru goes around and comes back and said, Sir, ye kaam nahi karta hai. I said, see, user feedback. It is so important. It's startup 101 to really not just build the technology, but also test it out with users. That startup or innovation ID is today present in 120 countries. They've built 3 more products and helping millions of people with visual impairment. So in 2018, we launched Assistech Foundation ATF as a Section 8 nonprofit company with the goal to build world's most powerful assistive technology innovation ecosystem. I'm really happy to share with you today. We work with 500 such startups and innovators in the country, while we started with just 10 or 15. At ATF, we have 4 pillars. We call it 4 A's. First pillar is acceleration. We work with, like I said, 500 startups, 54 of them are in our portfolio, 120 products, 49 patents. There are 1,000 or more people, a lot of them people with disabilities working for these startups. And with everything which we do, we are impacting 1 million lives with disability already. In the acceleration pillar, we work with the United Nations to run their UNDP Youth Collab program. We've also created a global alliance with 6 other countries. While there are 500 startups in India whom we work with, we have access to 1,200 more startups across the globe. Look at the power of innovation, because tech is beyond boundaries. We're also launching a fund, a seed fund with the help of Government of India. The Startup India Seed Fund in next 3 years is going to help 32 disability tech startups. We have also built an amazing online marketplace, because buying and getting access to assistive technology should be as easy as all of us buying in Amazon or Flipkart. And hence, this online platform, which is called Aditya, first door for infinite opportunities to people with disabilities, is going to help people with disabilities in learning, livelihood, and living. We do something called ATF Awards, which is a reward and recognition program to all the innovators and the enablers in the ecosystem. I'm a part of a committee of Royal Society of London, where we are doing a lot of thinking about digital accessibility across the world. With everything which we do, we are enabling millions of lives. Few of the startup example, a lot of people with physical disabilities, people with spinal cord injuries are not even considered a worthwhile human being in their own families. Now, there is a startup which came to us in IT from IT Madras. During the initial call, they said, Prateek, we build a wheelchair. And I said, please don't, because we have millions of wheelchairs, a 5,000 to 7,000 rupees wheelchair to a 5 lakh wheelchair. I don't think this world needs a wheelchair, another wheelchair. But they were brilliant innovators. The way they considered the design principles, the way they convinced me was very, very brilliant as well. So they came to me and said, Prateek, if you and I go to buy a shoe, will you buy the same size shoe as I would? I said, why would I? They said, then why are we giving same wheelchair to everybody? I said, point hai. I looked at their design, and it was so customized that it was, you can take a person who's physically disabled, and men, women, different shape and sizes, they were able to customize the wheelchair in few days. But then any startup can't just be a product or a technology story. We helped this company called NeoMotion build a scooter which can be fitted in that wheelchair with a battery. And guess what? We had them sign a MOU or a partnership with Zomato. Now, as we speak, there are thousands of kids, thousands of people who have physical disability are delivering food and earning their livelihood. How amazing is that? Another story which I'd like to tell you of a girl, Deepali, who lost her eyesight very early. She had difficulty not just in studying during her college years, but then we gave her a device called Kibo, Knowledge in a Box. It's from a startup called Tristle Labs. So Kibo is an amazing tech by Tristle. Look at the enablement it can give to a person with visual impairment. For Deepali, it was life-changing because she not only finished her study, she completed her college, she got into employment. I'm told that she's even bought a house for her parent very recently. Now, for people like Deepali, technologies like Kibo can be life-changing. Now, imagine a NeoMotion or a Trestle, but imagine 500 such innovations scaling in a country like India and helping not just 70 to 80 million people with disabilities, but have aspirations to help a billion people on this earth. So the journey which started in 2018 with just 10-15 startup is a 500 strong startup story. Now, India is an amazing innovation ecosystem. I'm sure all of you know from just 400 startup in 2014, today we have 1.6 lakh startups in our country. And in those 1.6 lakh startups, we have made 110 unicorns. I think we all should be proud of that. Now, ATF wants to be world's first impact unicorn, not the money unicorn, but a unicorn which is helping 1.4 billion people with disabilities in this world. So here's an invitation to you. Join Assistive Foundation, help us scale this impact, help us scale the companies and the innovators who are changing the lives of not just 80, 90 million people with disabilities in India, but 1.4 billion people in the world. So please join us to create an inclusive world where every person with disability has equal opportunity to learn, to find livelihood, and live with dignity. A world where people with disabilities don't have to struggle. A world where we all cheer for a blind cricket World Cup, irrespective of which country wins it.